In the heart of a bustling city, where the streets hum with the pulse of life, Zara, a bright and independent young woman, navigates the complexities of her final year at university. With a future brimming with promise, she has always leaned on one constant: her deep, unwavering friendship with Omar. Their bond, forged over years of shared laughter, secrets, and memories, has been the foundation of her world. To Zara, Omar is a steady rock in her life, a best friend who has always known exactly how to make her smile, no matter the circumstance. Then there's Adnan. Adnan enters their close-knit circle like a storm, bringing with him an energy that both excites and unsettles Zara. Handsome, enigmatic, and effortlessly charming, he quickly captivates her in a way she can't ignore. With every glance, every conversation, Zara feels a spark she hasn't felt in years. It's magnetic, pulling her closer to him, yet making her wonder if something precious is slipping through her fingers. As the days pass, the tension between them grows, and a question haunts Zara's heart. Can one love both a friend and a romantic partner without breaking something irrevocable? Little does she know, the answer will shatter more than just her understanding of love. It will change the course of her life forever. The stage is set. A love triangle begins to take shape, and in its wake, friendship, trust, and loyalty will be tested like never before. Zara and Omar's friendship was something rare, built on years of shared experiences, inside jokes, and a comfort only true friends could understand. From the moment they met as children, there had been an unspoken connection between them, one that grew stronger with every passing year. Through the ups and downs of life, they had always been there for each other. Zara, the fierce protector, Omar, the quiet confidant. They knew each other's dreams, fears, and deepest secrets. In a world where nothing seemed certain, their bond felt like home. In the small cafe near campus where they often met to study, Zara would smile every time she saw Omar enter. His crooked grin, the way he always ordered the same coffee, black, no sugar, had become as familiar to her as her own heartbeat. It was their ritual, their safe space, where nothing could touch them. Over time, however, things began to shift. Adnan, a charming new face in their university group, quickly became part of their daily routine. He was captivating in a way that was hard to ignore, his confidence exuding effortlessly as he cracked jokes and shared stories from his travels. Zara found herself drawn to him immediately. His laughter, his wit, the way he listened to her with an intensity that made her feel seen. He made her feel alive in a way that was both thrilling and unsettling. Omar noticed a change in Zara. He watched her light up whenever Adnan entered the room. The way her eyes sparkled when she spoke of him, it stung more than he cared to admit. There was something about Adnan's presence that seemed to pull Zara further away from him, leaving him on the outside looking in. Yet he said nothing. For years, Omar had been Zara's anchor, the one she could always count on, and he wasn't about to betray that trust. But deep down, something inside him shifted. A quiet longing he had never let himself acknowledge, now growing louder with every shared smile between Zara and Adnan. What Omar didn't know was that Zara, too, was starting to feel a shift, something beneath the surface, like a secret stirring in her heart, and it terrified her. The shift was subtle at first, a soft tug in Zara's heart that she tried to ignore. It began with the way her thoughts lingered on Adnan long after their conversations had ended. It wasn't just the chemistry between them. The jokes, the shared smiles, the way his eyes seemed to understand her in ways others didn't. It was something more. The way he made her feel like the world had edges, that life wasn't just a series of moments to get through, but something to be savored. When Adnan spoke, there was intensity in his voice, a depth in his gaze that made Zara's pulse race. She found herself looking forward to every moment they spent together, even the briefest encounters. But it wasn't just Adnan who had changed. Omar had always been Zara's constant, her safe place in a world that often felt chaotic. But lately, something was different. He seemed quieter, more distant, though Zara couldn't put her finger on why. His usual easy laughter was less frequent, and when he spoke, his words felt heavier, tinged with unspoken sorrow. He still made time for her, of course. He was always there when she needed him. But the effortless camaraderie they once shared now felt strained, like a song being played out of tune. Zara tried to ignore the growing tension between them, chalking it up to the stress of their final year at university. But deep down, She knew something had changed between them. She couldn't help but wonder if Omar had noticed the way she laughed a little too freely when Adnan was around, or how she found excuses to spend time with him when she should have been studying. Had he seen the way she lingered on Adnan's touch, how even the smallest gestures felt more intimate than they should? One evening, after a long day of lectures, Zara and Omar walked side by side across the campus, the autumn air crisp and cool around them. It was the kind of evening they had spent countless times before, talking about everything and nothing. But tonight, there was a weight in the silence between them, something Zara couldn't ignore. "Omar," Zara began hesitantly, "are you okay? You've seemed different lately." He glanced at her, his eyes flickering with something she couldn't quite read. "I'm fine," he replied quickly, his voice too flat. "Just tired. You know how it is." Zara felt a pang of guilt, but she didn't press further. Instead, she tried to fill the silence with something light, something familiar. "So, did you hear about that new movie coming out next week? I think it might be perfect for our next movie night." But Omar didn't answer. His gaze was fixed ahead, distant, lost in thought. It wasn't until much later that night, after Zara had returned to her dorm, that she understood what had shifted. She found herself lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to shake the images of Adnan's smile, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. In the silence of her own thoughts, the realization hit her with brutal clarity. She had feelings for Adnan, real, undeniable feelings, and they were only growing stronger with each passing day. But what did that mean for Omar? She had never thought of him in any other way than as a best friend. But now, the guilt of her growing attraction to Adnan gnawed at her, the fear that she might lose Omar's friendship forever hanging in the air. The unspoken truth was clear now, even if Zara wasn't ready to face it. She was falling for Adnan, and somewhere deep inside, she feared that her feelings for him might tear apart the very foundation of the friendship she had with Omar. The days that followed Zara's quiet realization were filled with suffocating tension, a knot in her chest that refused to loosen. She couldn't ignore it any longer. The growing affection she felt for Adnan, the fluttering excitement whenever he was near, the way her heart raced when he spoke to her, as if she were the only person in the room. But the worst part was the growing distance between her and Omar. Omar had always been there for her closest friend, her confidant, the person who knew her better than anyone. Yet, every time she looked at him now, the weight of his unspoken words seemed to hover between them, a silent accusation she couldn't shake off. She tried to pretend that things were the same, that their bond hadn't shifted, but the cracks were becoming impossible to ignore. It wasn't just in the way Omar's gaze had become increasingly distant, or how his once easy smile now seemed forced. It was in the moments when they were together, and Zara found herself searching for the warmth she had once felt in his presence, but only finding coldness. They had always shared everything, every laugh, every struggle, every victory. But now there was something unspoken hanging in the air, something that Zara couldn't name, though she feared she already knew what it was. Omar's feeling for her had never been a secret, not even to Zara. But he had always kept them locked away, buried beneath the surface of their friendship, because he knew that to confess would risk everything. Now, that unspoken love had begun to bleed through the cracks. Every smile Zara shared with Adnan, every laugh they exchanged, seemed to cut him deeper, and he couldn't pretend any longer that he didn't feel the ache of it in his chest. One evening, as the golden light of the setting sun filtered to the cafe windows, Omar finally spoke. The words hung in the air, heavy and fragile, like a glass teetering on the edge of a table. "Zara," he began quietly, his voice thick with emotion, "I can't keep doing this." Zara's heart sank, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. She looked at him, the weight of his words pressing down on her chest. "I can't keep pretending that things are the same between us. I know what's happening with you and Adnan," he continued, his eyes filled with a pain that made Zara's stomach churn. "I see the way you look at him, the way he makes you smile. It hurts, Zara. It hurts because I've loved you for so long, and now I feel like I'm losing you." The words cut through her like a knife, and Zara's mind raced, her thoughts swirling in confusion and guilt. She hadn't meant to hurt Omar. She had never imagined that her feeling for Adnan could fracture the bond she had with him. But now, standing before him, the truth was undeniable. The gulf between them had widened, and no amount of pretending could close the distance. "I never wanted to hurt you, Omar," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I never meant for any of this to happen." Omar's eyes softened, but there was still a deep sadness in his gaze. "I know you didn't, but it doesn't change what's happening. I can't keep watching you fall for him, knowing I'll never be more than a friend to you." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I've been holding on for too long, and it's tearing me apart. I can't do it anymore, Zara." A sharp pang of regret hit Zara, and she reached out to him instinctively, but he pulled away. The rejection stung more than she expected. She had always known Omar to be strong, composed, but now he seemed fragile, broken in a way that left her speechless. "Omar, please, don't say goodbye," she pleaded, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't want to lose you." But Omar shook his head slowly, the finality in his gesture leaving no room for argument. "I need space, Zara. Time to figure things out. I don't know if I'll ever be able to be just your friend again. Not after this." His voice cracked, and for a moment, he seemed like the boy she had known all these years, the boy who had once been her constant. "I need to move on, for both of us." Zara stood frozen, her heart breaking as she watched him turn and walk away, the space between them now an unbridgeable chasm. It felt as though she had lost not just a friend, but a part of herself. The familiar rhythm of her life, the comfortable existence of their friendship, had shattered in an instant, leaving her adrift. That night, Zara lay in bed, unable to sleep, her mind spinning with guilt, confusion, and longing. She had chosen her heart. She had chosen Adnan. But in doing so, she had destroyed the one relationship she had always counted on. The silence between her and Omar was deafening, a goodbye she hadn't wanted but had unknowingly pushed him toward. And deep down, Zara knew this wasn't just in a friendship. It was the end of an era. The days after Omar left were some of the hardest Zara had ever faced. She tried to distract herself, to convince herself that the space between them was just temporary, that time would heal the wound she had caused. But the reality was crushing. Every empty seat at the cafe, every quiet walk across campus, was a reminder of the void left by Omar's absence. It was as though a part of her world had been ripped away, and no matter how much she tried to fill it with Adnan's presence, the emptiness lingered. Adnan, ever attentive, noticed Zara's struggle. He could see the pain in her eyes, the way her smiles never quite reach her eyes. He tried to comfort her, but there was an unspoken tension between them now, too. Zara couldn't shake the guilt that gnawed at her. She had chosen him, but the cost of that choice had been high. She didn't want to lose Omar forever, but how could she undo what had already been said? It was the evening of their final exams, a moment Zara had been dreading for weeks. The campus was quieter than usual, the air thick with the weight of unspoken goodbyes. Zara sat alone on the bench where she and Omar had once talked for hours, now silenced by the distance she had created. Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a message from Omar. A simple text. "I hope you're doing okay. Take care." Zara's hands trembled as she read the message. She didn't know how to respond. Words felt inadequate, as if they couldn't bridge the chasm between them. But she knew one thing for sure. This goodbye wasn't something she could fix with a message. It was something she had to accept, even if it hurt. Later that evening, Zara and Adnan sat together on the same bench, his arm draped around her shoulders, his voice soft and soothing. Zara wanted to be present with him, to allow herself to move forward, but in her heart, she felt the weight of the past, the friendship she had lost. The ache was still there, but it was different now, familiar, almost comforting in its own sad way. As Adnan kissed her gently on the forehead, Zara closed her eyes and whispered, "I'll never forget him." She didn't need to explain who she meant. Adnan understood. It wasn't the closure she had hoped for, but it was a beginning, a painful, necessary step toward healing. Months passed, and the ache in Zara's heart began to dull, though it never fully disappeared. She and Adnan had grown closer, their relationship blossoming in the quiet spaces between their hectic lives. But there was still a part of Zara that couldn't forget what had happened, what she had lost. She missed Omar in ways she couldn't fully explain. She heard through mutual friends that he had moved to another city, away from the campus that had once been his second home. He was starting fresh, focusing on his career, and though Zara was glad he was finding his way, the distance between them felt insurmountable. One evening, months after the fallout, Zara received a message from him. "I'm doing okay. I'm happy for you, Zara. I hope you find what you're looking for." It wasn't a declaration of forgiveness, nor was it a plea for reconnection. It was simply a quiet acknowledgement, a sign that Omar was healing in his own way. Zara felt a bittersweet relief. She didn't know if they could ever go back to what they once had, but at least there was peace now, even if it came with a quiet goodbye. Zara closed her eyes, letting the weight of the past settle. She had moved forward, but she would always carry a piece of her friendship with Omar, tucked quietly in her heart.